Nothing derails a solo RPG session like a well-timed random event. Welcome to episode 5 of this ongoing actual play series where I combine the Mythic GME with D100 Dungeon. If you love emergent storytelling, procedural world building, and the pure beautiful chaos of solo RPGs, then you are definitely in the right place. Hi, I'm Liz, and this is The Quiet Table. On this channel, I play deep, narrative-driven RPGs, and I let the dice make most of the decisions. In today's session, my adventurer's journey takes a turn as she has to hunt for food. Then she meets with a noblewoman who offers a rather large sum of money for what sounds like a pretty straightforward quest. And oh yeah, maybe she finally makes it to that dungeon that she set out to find weeks ago. You want to see how it all comes together? Join me at my quiet table.
Alendra had just reached the Grasslands of Doom, and she was heading into the Hills of Treasure to tackle quest number 3. If you don't remember, or if you haven't watched the video, quest number 3 requires her to perform 2 jam door tests on different doors. Now, we went through a whole narrative exposition, and we decided that the reason why she has to do this is because she was hired by a man named Leonis Faltos, who is a door right, and he is determined to disprove the claims of his rival, a Fletcher named Karam, who has created a master key mall, which he claims will open any door. So Leonis has decided to hire an adventurer, and he has offered to pay 100 gold pieces if she can disprove his claims, or prove his claims for that matter. That is where she's heading. She is currently in the Grasslands of Doom. However, she just spent 8 days going through the broken desert. And because of that, she is down to 1 ration. So the first thing that she is going to have to do is either do some foraging or some fishing. So if we look at her skills, we can see that she has a +5 to fishing, which I think would be the best way to go here because she doesn't have any additional bonuses in traps or in hunting. And I don't actually see harvesting on here, so I guess there's no bonus for that. But she does have a +5 in fishing. Fishing can be done using a fishing rod and line. Bait is optional. She doesn't have a fishing rod and line, so I guess that's not going to happen. So she is not fishing. She has to forage. And because she has to forage, that means that she's either going to be harvesting, trapping, or hunting. Now, let's look at her skills here. Harvesting requires her to test int. Her int is quite low, it's only 30. Trapping requires her to use her dex. Again, quite low, only 30. Hunting would require her to test her strength. So her strength is 60, which is probably the best way for us to go here. First, it says that the test is modified by a foraging penalty that can be found on the terrain table. So let's have a look at the terrain table for Grasslands. I do, however, also have a map key, so sometimes that's just easier. Forage penalty is -5, and we would get 9 pieces of food. There is also a foraging bonus that is on the calendar. So right now in our game, it is January. Foraging bonus is -2. So that means that instead of getting 9 rations, we would get 7 rations because it's winter and theoretically it's harder to find food. So if she is successful, she will get 7 rations. We are going to go hunting and we're going to test her strength, which is 60, minus the foraging penalty, which is -5. So I need to roll a 55 or below in order for her to be successful. 43, so she successfully hunts. But you know me, I need some narrative here. It's not enough for me to just say she went hunting in the grasslands. I need to know more about what she hunted in the grasslands and how it went and how it happened to be that she did as well as she did. First thing we're going to do here is the first thing we did when she entered the broken desert. And actually, I should have done this even before she went hunting, but that's okay. We can do it now. And that's the joy of solo role playing. You can do this in any order at any time. You realize that you missed something, you can just go back and add it in. You realize that you need a little bit more flavor for your game. You need to give yourself more opportunities to be immersed in your game. You can do that. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. If you saw the previous video, you will know that we did the same thing for the Broken Desert. So I'm going to do it again for the Grasslands of Doom. And that means that I am going to use the randomized location crafting, which is a variation of Mythic, which you can find in the Mythic Magazine compilation #1. I'm going to have that linked in the description box down below in case you're interested. I'm using it in a very basic way here because I don't need to know too much about this location, but I do want to give myself a few key indicators of what this region is like. So the first thing we need to determine is whether we are trying to describe a wilderness, a city, or a structure. We're in the Grasslands of Doom here. We're not in a city. This isn't a structure, so it goes under the wilderness category. So I'm going to roll on this table twice. And based on the two descriptors that I get, I'm going to put them together and I'm going to give myself a description of the Grasslands of Doom. 71, mountainous, which is interesting because we got mountainous for the broken desert as well. And we interpreted that to mean that there are some very high sand dunes. Mountainous in the grassland of Doom is going to be very different because this is a grassland. It is not a mountain terrain by default. And we also have hot. So hot and mountainous. As Alendra enters the grasslands of Doom, the first thing she thinks is that there's no relief from the relentless heat that she experienced in the broken desert. And then she thinks, January. It's January. There's nothing about this place that says winter. The land rolls out in every direction, nothing but rising and falling waves of grass covered hills. The word grasslands should mean green and alive. But here, everything feels brittle and sun-baked, like it's been left in the heat for too long and forgotten. Some of the grasses are sharp, stiff things that snap underfoot. Others are taller, greenish in patches, but they tangle around her legs, catch on her armor, and tug at her clothes like they have a mind of their own. The wind doesn't help. It's not even a real wind, just these sudden, stifling gusts that kick up the grass, bend it in great sweeping arcs, and then disappear just as fast. The ground beneath it all is hard packed, cracked in places. This place is miserable. Now we know a little bit about what the grasslands of Doom feel like, which is going to help us when we decide what kind of creature she's fighting here. Once again, I am going to call upon Mythic for some help. I am going to roll on the creature descriptors table. I'm going to roll twice. I'm going to put those words together, and I'm going to figure out what kind of creature she is going to find and hunt. 41, inscribed. Interesting. So maybe the animal is marked. Maybe it belongs to somebody. That's very interesting. Inscribed. And 62, object. All right, so Alendra is going hunting. She spots the beast just as she crests a low hill, crouching instinctively as she peers through the shifting grass, its heavy bulk pushing through the brittle stalks with lazy confidence. It's massive, broad shouldered, covered in thick, dust colored hide that seems impervious to the heat. Its curved tusks gleam faintly in the sunlight, ridged with strange, deliberate carvings. This is the first sign of food she's seen since entering the Grasslands of Doom, and she has no intention of letting it slip away. But taking it down is not going to be easy. She can't rely on brute force. She has to be precise. Staying low, she moves carefully through the tall grass. Dry stalks whisper against her leather armor, but she moves when the wind stirs, masking her presence. Her grip tightens around the hilt of her rapier. This weapon isn't ideal for hunting. She has no bows, no spears, nothing designed for distance. It's going to have to do. It's all she has. She just needs to get close. The tusk grazer snorts, shifting its weight as it pulls up mouthfuls of brittle grass. Alendra watches, waiting, feeling the rhythm of its movements. It grazes for a few moments, lifts its head, sniffs the air, and then lowers its head again. That's her opening. She moves. Each step is controlled, steady, bringing her within striking range. When she's close enough to see the deep grooves in the creature's tusks, she lunges. Her rapier pierces just behind the foreleg, slipping through the beast's hide in a single lethal thrust. The tusk grazer bellows, rearing back, but Alendra is already moving. She twists the blade, stepping aside as the massive creature stumbles, its strength failing faster than she expected. She gets in a second lucky strike, right to the heart this time. The beast lurches once, legs buckling, then collapses with a heavy thud. She wastes no time. She knows the heat will spoil the meat if she lingers. She wishes she had a dagger, but all she has is the rapier. She uses it and sets to work. Even though she's never done this before, she tries to be as methodical and precise as possible. She cuts through the thick hide, separating flesh from skin. The meat is dark, streaked with fat that will help sustain her in this wasteland. She carves out thick slabs, dividing them into manageable portions, while the carcass slowly bleeds into the dry earth beneath her. 7 solid portions of meat cut and wrapped in strips of the beast's own hide to preserve them. Without salt or proper curing, she's going to have to eat them quickly. But for now, they'll do. She packs them carefully into her satchel, tying the wrap portions tightly to keep out dust and flies. Her hands are slick with blood, the scent thick in the air. Survival doesn't allow for squeamishness. Once everything is secured, she rises, wiping her blade clean against a patch of brittle grass. The branded tusk grazer is nothing more than a lifeless heap now, its strange markings meaningless in death. Whoever owned this beast, whatever story those markings told, whatever purpose they once held, is irrelevant. She doesn't linger. With one last glance at the carcass, Alendra pours some water on her blood-stained hands, getting off the worst of the gore, then shoulders her pack and moves on. All right, so luckily for Alendra, she managed to get 7 rations. I'm just going to fill this in right here. All right, that brings her up to 8 rations total. Okay, the next thing we need to do is spend her action point. It took her 1 day to hunt for this beast, so she lost 1 day of travel to hunting. You can see here that it says ×3, and that means that she can take this action 3 times while she is in this hex before she moves out of the hex. If she ever comes back into the hex, she can take this action again 3 more times, but she always needs to leave before she can do it a 4th time. So she got 7 rations out of 1 day's worth of hunting. So it probably took her quite a bit of time to track down this beast, take it down, and then butcher it and get her rations. So we're going to cross off Saturday the 16th, and there is an S here, and that means we get to roll for an event and add 10. This time we are not testing whether we get an event. We know we get an event. So while she is in the Grasslands of Doom, something happens to Electra. Let's see what it is. All right, let's roll. 91 plus 10 is 101. That's not going to work, so we're going to roll that again. This is my homebrewed rule. I'm not entirely sure how D100 Dungeon suggests we deal with this. We go over a 100, for example, because we have to add a 10 or whatever the case might be. But this is how I deal with it. I just re-roll anything that goes beyond the boundary of the D100. 32 plus 10, 42. We're in the Grasslands, 42, rumors. The adventurer learns about a quest. Roll the D100, and on a result of 1 to 40, it is a side quest. See generating a side quest. On a result of 41 to 100, it is a quest. See generating a quest. 89, we learn about an actual quest. Now, here's the interesting thing. The Grasslands of Doom, we don't have a quest in the Grasslands of Doom. So this is perfect. She learns about a quest that is happening right here. So I'm just going to write down Q5 for quest 5. And let's roll on the quest sheet, see what this quest is, and then we're going to build out the narrative around it and figure out how it is that Alendra finds out about this quest. 56, Treasure Rush. Collect items from any table with a combined value of 6,000 gold pieces. A person has been spreading news of a dungeon that is bursting at the seams with treasure. The adventurer wants in on the action. So let's make a note of that. And let's find out who the person is who is spreading news of this dungeon. We're going to roll on the names table. And we got a 7. The person is a marquess. Marquess. So the quest reward modifier is a 5. The person modifier is another 5. There is no hex modifier. Just going to double check, but nope, no hex modifier. So that brings us up to a reward value of 10. So let's roll on the quest reward table. That's a 6. So interestingly, we get 6,000 gold pieces if we do this successfully. So not only do we get to collect the items worth 6,000 gold pieces or more, and this doesn't say anything about handing them in. So it sounds like we get to keep them. And then we get an additional 6,000 gold pieces from the marquess. And we also get +1 reputation. And if we fail, we lose reputation and we lose 3 intelligence. I don't think poor Alendra can afford to lose too much intelligence. And the encounter modifier is +20. Okay, this is the part where we create a narrative around it. The first thing we're going to do is give this woman a name. I'm rolling on the names table, and I got a 36, which is Gra, and 71, which is R, just the letter R. Okay, I'm going to name her Grahira. Given that Alendra is traveling through the Grasslands of Doom and she is running into somebody who is quite aristocratic, Alendra herself having a background that had her grow up at court, I would actually like to know whether Alendra knows Grahira already. So to do that, I am going to roll on the fate chart. I'm going to use the chaos factor of 5, and I have no idea whether she does or not. So I'm going to say it's 50-50 odds. 66, she does not know this woman. The sun is starting to hang low, stretching long, copper-tinged shadows across the hills. The heat still hasn't broken. She adjusts the weight of her satchel, shifting the wrapped bundles of meat inside. 7 rations, enough to last for a while, but not forever. Ahead, the land slopes downward toward a narrow dirt road cutting through the grasslands. She hadn't been looking for it, but she isn't surprised to find it. She pauses at the edge of the rise, scanning the road before descending. That's when she sees them. A slow-moving wagon, draped in rich crimson cloth, rolling steadily across the cracked earth. 2 sturdy horses pull it forward, their coats dark with sweat. Beside it, mounted riders keep pace. Alendra has a choice. She can step onto the road, let herself be seen, and risk whatever comes, or keep walking, stay in the wilds, and miss whatever opportunity this is. So she steps onto the road. Even before she gets there, the riders have noticed her. One, a hard-eyed man with a scar curling around his jaw, reins his horse slightly ahead, palm resting on the hilt of a sheathed blade. He says nothing, just watches her approach. And then a voice calls from the wagon. Oh, let her be. She's clearly no threat to us. The curtain at the front of the wagon shifts, and a woman emerges, stepping gracefully onto the small platform. Her gown, though practical for travel, is finely embroidered, the fabric flowing but structured. A dagger rests at her hip, and Alendra thinks that maybe it's not ornamental. The woman studies Alendra with a keen, assessing gaze before offering a measured smile. You carry yourself like someone who knows the weight of a weapon. Alendra doesn't reply right away, although she is pleased by that, given that this is her first time outside of Yestis. This is the first time outside the grasslands of the wise. The woman seems to take the silence in stride. I am Marquess Rahira Sorneth of Rathspend. I imagine my name means little to you, but I hope our conversation will change that. Grahira gestures to the open space beside the wagon. Walk with me a while. I have an opportunity that might interest someone like you. Alendra falls into step beside the woman. I'm listening. Grahira nods as if she expected nothing less. Have you heard the rumors of the dungeon to the north of here? Bursting at the seams with treasure, they say. So much unclaimed wealth, just waiting for someone bold enough to take it. Her smile sharpens slightly. I would like to take my share myself. I suspect someone like you might wish to do the same. Alendra exhales, slow and measured. Another dungeon, another quest. This one a dungeon full of treasure. Rumors travel faster than truth, but even if half of what this woman says is exaggeration, well, a well-stocked ruin is still worth investigating. She glances toward the Marquess, watching the way she carries herself. This isn't some naive aristocrat chasing legends. Grahira Sorneth knows something. What do you get out of telling me this? A head start, for one. The rumors have just started circulating about this place, which means the rush hasn't begun yet. But it will. When word spreads further, it's going to be chaos in there. Every adventurer worth their salt is going to try to break down the doors in that place. I intend to be ahead of the crowd. All I ask is, should you find some things of particular value, you bring them to me first and give me an opportunity to pay you a fair amount for them. In addition to whatever you might find that you may or may not sell me, I will also pay you 6,000 gold pieces just for taking the risk. Alendra's jaw drops. 6,000 gold pieces just for walking into a dungeon and coming back with some treasure? Oh, yeah. This is one opportunity she cannot pass. Alindra nods and says, I'm in. Rahira says, Good. I had a feeling you'd recognize an opportunity when you heard one. The wagon continues its slow trek forward, its wheels grinding softly against the dirt road. The riders remain watchful, their grips on their swords ease. You'll need to come to Rathspend when you're ready. I have a residence there, one that should be easy enough for you to find. She lifts a hand, tracing a slow circle in the air as if drawing a map only she can see. At the heart of town, near the central square, there's a stone courtyard lined with bronze lanterns. At its center, you'll find a fountain, dry these days, but still standing. My home is just beyond it, a wide stone manor with dark wooden doors. Tell the gatekeeper you seek an audience with me. Don't take too long. The wealth of this dungeon will not wait forever. The moment enough people believe the rumors, they'll come like starving wolves. The smart ones, and she gestures at herself and at Alendra. Well, the smart ones will go first. Alendra smirks faintly. I don't plan on dragging my feet, but I was on my way to another job. And she thinks about the mall and the silly job that has her busting down two doors. But she is committed. She has come this far, and she intends to see that one through first. And then she can take care of this dungeon full of treasure. If she's very lucky, she will still be the first one there, and the treasure will wait. I have it on good authority that so far, I'm the only one who knows of this place. But like I said, rumors tend to spread. Rahira pulls the curtain of the wagon aside and steps back onto the platform. Before disappearing inside, she gives Alendra a little wave and she says, I'll see you in Rathspend. The curtain drops, the wagon rolls forward. Alendra stops and watches it go, the riders keeping a steady perimeter as they move down the road. The sun is lower now, the sky bruising into deeper shades of orange and violet. The road stretches before her, but she chooses to step back into the tangled grass. She feels more comfortable off the beaten path. Now Alendra knows about one more quest, and she is still on her way to the Hills of Treasure. So we've already established that Alendra is stubborn. She has a mission and she is going to complete it before she does anything else, regardless of how many more interesting quests she runs across on her journey. However, she's also pretty smart because if we look over here, we'll see that this encounter modifier is plus 20. That means that the encounters in this dungeon are going to be difficult. And she is still a brand new baby adventurer with only the clothes on her back, basically, just a couple of pieces of armor that she had initially and a rapier. So she's got a helmet, leg pieces, some boots, and a rapier. That's all she's got. She definitely needs a little bit more experience. She needs more gear. So even though the marquess told her that time is of the essence, she knows she's not prepared for anything like this. So that means that she's just going to keep on walking. But at least she's almost there. She is moving from the Grasslands of Doom to the Hills of Treasure. And yes, she is going to take the road because it's going to allow her to get there faster. She is not stopping in Rathspend. She doesn't need to. As we established before, we need to look at the hex that we're in. So we need to look at the grasslands to determine how long it's going to take her to walk through to get to the Hills of Treasure. So with the grasslands, it's 4 AP, so 4 action points. That's 4 days to get through the Grasslands of Doom. However, if there's a road going through, we get to take off 2 days from her journey. So it's going to take her 2 days to go through the Grasslands of Doom. One thing we forgot to do when we crossed off the 16th here is we forgot to take off a ration. So yes, she hunted and she got herself 7 rations, but she also spent a ration living that day. So we took one off. And now she is spending 2 days walking. So we will cross off the 17th and the 18th of January and take off 2 of the rations. And with that, she reaches the Hills of Treasure at long last. But we don't know anything about the Hills of Treasure, and neither does Alendra. So once again, is this a city? No, it's not. It's the Hills of Treasure. Is it a structure? Nope, not yet. She's going to a dungeon, but she's not there yet. So, wilderness. We're going to roll on this table twice, and we're going to see what the Hills of Treasure are like. 35, barren, and 33. Barren and barren. So when that happens, when we roll and we get the same word twice, it means that we are doubling down on whatever that word is. So it is extra barren. Alundra crests the first rise of the Hills of Treasure, and she stops dead in her tracks. Barren doesn't even begin to describe this place. The landscape ahead is a graveyard of hills, rolling endlessly into the horizon, stripped of anything that might make them feel alive. There are no trees, no grass, no stubborn little shrubs clinging to cracks in the earth, just raw, exposed land, pockmarked and broken, as though something had scraped away the surface and left only bones behind. Dust clings to the wind in thin, restless wisps. Her boots scuff against the dry, crumbling dirt. Even the grasslands of Doom had something. If there's anything of value in this place, it's buried beneath the lifeless soil. She is determined to find this dungeon, test out this key mall, and get the heck out of the Hills of Treasure. So we are going to say that Alundra makes her way through the Hills of Treasure and she finds the dungeon that she's looking for. From a narrative perspective, let's once again roll on the region descriptions table, but this time we have found a structure. 79, that is dangerous, and 62, functional. Alundra spots it long before she reaches it. The dungeon entrance looms ahead, carved directly into the side of one of the larger hills. It's just a massive rectangular opening framed by thick stone pillars. The design is deliberate, built for utility. There are no markings, no symbols to suggest who built this place or why, but the structure speaks for itself. This was never meant to be a temple or a palace or a place of refuge. It's a dungeon, pure and simple. Alundra steps forward, boots crunching against the loose grit at the threshold. The entrance yawns before her, the cavernous maw stretching into blackness. A heavy scent drifts from within. Stone, stale air, something metallic, the kind of scent that lingers in places long abandoned, in places where things have fled. She grips the hilt of her rapier. This place wasn't made to welcome her. It wasn't made to welcome anyone, but she's not here to be welcomed. She's here to test out the Master Key Mall. By the gods, that's exactly what she's going to do. And she's going to do that in our next play session. So in the next video, Alundra is going to make her way into this dungeon and with any luck, come up against a couple of jammed doors and try out the Master Key Mall and see what happens. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. I love talking to you about solo RPGs. And when you're ready to continue the adventure, you know where to find me. I'll see you at the quiet table.